All right, so y'all have your test coming up on Friday. So next couple days, you're gonna get some review because unit kind of covers a lot with linear functions. So let's start with the types of slopes. We got four lines here. We got four types of slopes. Who thinks they could come up and drag these to the correct ones? Ariana. All right, so when you move from left to right, if the line is getting higher, that is a positive slope. When the line is getting lower, that is a negative slope. Flat horizontal lines, those are zero slopes because, slope is rise over run. So if it has no rise, with the zero slope, we got zero on top. Zero on top is okay. When it's on the bottom, when we got zero for our run, that's when we get the undefined slope because we can't divide by zero. Okay? Any questions on that? All right, so the other thing we got to be able to do is we got to be able to find equations from graphs. So when you're finding the equation from a graph, you need at least 2 points. You want one of those points to be your y-intercept. All right, so our y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. That would be right there. For another point, you need where the line goes through the corners of a grid line. All right, so the next one I can have is right there. I could also do this one, this one, this one. Everybody see what I mean by each one of those goes to the corners, right? Like I said, we only need 2 of them though, so we'll just use those 2. If they're closer together, you don't have to worry about simplifying the fractions as often. So we don't have to worry about simplifying if we use the ones right next to each other. So when we find the slope then, what we use to find slope from a graph? Rise over run. So the rise is how much we go up and down. Run is the left and right. So in this case, my rise is 1. My run is 3. So I put that as rise over run. That's 1 over 3. That's 1/3. So I write the equation. I got y equals, my slope goes in front of the x, because that's the m in the mx plus b. And the y-intercept, since it's positive 2, we put a plus 2. If it was negative 2, we would put a minus 2, right? Then the other thing you gotta always pay attention to is whether the slope's positive or negative. Since this is a positive slope, that stays a positive 1/3. Any questions on that one? All right, try that one. I'll give you 2 dots since this is a little tough to see from your seat. So there's a dot, there's a dot. Missing the y-intercept. Yeah. All right, so we got y equals, our slope is negative. The line's going down. It's negative 2/3. We go down 2/3. So our rise was 2, run was 3. That's where the 2/3 comes from. We need an x after our slope. And then the y-intercept is added on because it's positive. The y-intercept's where it crosses the y-axis. That's right there. So we got +4. Okay? Any questions on that? The function of the line that passes through those 2 points. David? All right, so we got y equals, it'd be -1 is your slope. When you see that written, they'll just put -x plus 9. All right, so the easiest way is to use Desmos. You got your table with x and y. So when you got your table with x and y, you got your 7 and 2, your 3 and 6, and then kind of up here on it, you got the button that looks kind of like that, and that'll give you the linear regression, is what it's called, but it'll give you the equation. If you're doing it without Desmos, you do change in y over change in x. Our x values, or sorry, our y values are going from 2 to 6. The x values are going from 7 to 3. 2 to 6 is up 4. 7 to 3 is down 4. When it's going down, we use a negative number. Then we got negative or positive over negative. That makes the whole thing negative. So that's a -1. That's where that comes from. To find the y-intercept, we do y minus mx. We take one of the ordered pairs and we just kind of plug stuff in. So 2 is a y value minus -1 times 7, because that was the x value. We'd have 2 minus -7 after we multiply. We got to do same change. 2 plus 7, that gives us the 9. So when we put it together, that's what we got. Okay? Any questions on that? Been a little while since we did those. That was like before Thanksgiving, so. All right, find the equation for this table. Yeah, we got y equals 13x plus 8. Okay? If you did this without Desmos, you pick two of the points. I'll just use the first two. Change in y from 34 to 60 is 26. Change in x from 2 to 4 is 2. 26 divided by 2, 13. Then you would do y minus mx. If I use that first point, I got 34 minus 13 times 2. 13 times 2 is 26. 34 minus 26 is 8. And that's where those pieces come from. Desmos does make it a lot easier, though. All right, so sometimes they try to trick you with ones like this, okay? It's asking which function has a slope 1 less than the graph. So the first thing we got to do is we got to find the slope on the graph. I know these are tiny squares from your seats, so kind of show. We got the y-intercept down here at 0, 0. So we just need the next point where it goes through a corner. Next point where it's going through a corner is right there. That means we went up 3 over 1. So that makes my slope here 3. All right, so you can tell me which one's the answer. Zay? No. A. A is the answer. So that's where these get kind of tricky. It's not asking you for the equation of that graph. The equation of that graph is B. Y equals 3x. It's asking for the slope 1 less than the graph shown. So you got to take 1 off of the slope. That gives us 2 as our slope. So that's why it's A. That makes sense? I've seen problems like this where it's 1 less, 1 more, stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of people get them right for the graph, but not right for the question because they didn't read it carefully. Okay? So next couple days we'll get some practice with some of those too, because state likes using those types of problems for the EOG and check-ins and stuff.